Chris from Purple Tiki, and I'm sitting today with Meg Renninger of Snout and Shell Food Products. Or I'm not sure what's the official title of the company.
Snout and Shell, we manufacture food for small pets.
Okay, so I was hoping to remember how to say something, and I didn't. So we're off to a great start. Um, so Meg, before we get into the hermit crab side of things, in reading about you, I found your background interesting. So, where did you start to get here to the food production and so forth?
Okay. Well, I actually started out as a wildlife biologist, and you don't really get into that profession without having a lot of interest in animals and the wildlife. However, as I sort of grew my family and moved around, I had to sort of look for different professions. It was hard to maintain staying as a wildlife biologist in all of the places that we moved. And so, another thing about being a wildlife biologist is it doesn't pay very well, so you get used to expanding your income potential. And I started selling on eBay and just sort of doing general e-commerce where you just buy low, sell high, anything like that. But I was hoping to start a business where I could scale that. You know, if you find one thing to sell that sells for a lot of money, that's great, but that's it.
Right.
So I was looking to scale my business, and I was also looking to do something a little bit more meaningful and bring in some of my previous background. And I started with hermit crab food and snail food because I really sort of saw a need there. I was scrolling Facebook at one point, and I noticed a friend had posted about her hermit crabs that were 10 and 15 years old. And that kind of blew my mind because I didn't realize hermit crabs lived that long. I had had hermit crabs as a kid, and they had lived for like 1 or 2 years, and then they had
Right.
died. And that was when I realized that there was this animal welfare crisis going on, that these animals were just being taken from the wild. And then, due to lack of education, they were living these really short, horrible lives.
Right.
And I wanted to see how I could help change that for the better. So I put on my research hat as a wildlife biologist, and I really dove into what hermit crabs and crustaceans need for good health and long-lived health. And I started to develop my own recipes, and I got my own hermit crabs that I've had for 5 years now, and I started testing out my different recipes on them, and really started seeing some success with that. So I launched my first product back in 2022, and it definitely was serving a need in the community. It was definitely helping to provide like a whole food diet for other crab keepers out there.
You know, I hear your story, and I'm watching your face, and I can see the passion and the love that you're putting into your efforts here. It comes across in your posture, the way you're presenting with your body mechanics and everything right now, that you really do believe in this. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. You know, I love all sorts of creatures, obviously, but I know that in my lifetime, I have seen that animal advocacy, it works. I remember when I was a kid in elementary school, I was really into betta fish. And at the time, it was really popular to keep these Siamese fighting fish or betta fish in these little tiny jars in vases.
Right.
And people would be like, oh, it's perfect. They eat like the plant roots, which is not true. Bettas are carnivorous fish, you know? And so sort of, I remember having sort of my own betta fish in larger tanks, but still only maybe 3 or 4 gallons. And I would do little experiments with them of like testing which colors of nail polish they would react to and they'd flare for. And I mean, I love these fish, but I also was in the 90s, I'd go on to fish talk forums. And
Yeah.
I mean, watching the advocacy of people who are really talking about how these fish need much larger tanks. They need heated tanks. They need 5 gallons. And so the thing is I grew up where I sort of watched this advocacy work for Siamese fighting fish. And even if you go onto YouTube or if you go anywhere now to learn how to take care of these fish, you learn that they need a lot larger tanks than what they were originally given. And so just in my lifetime, I've seen animal advocacy work for these fish, where they are no longer treated as just like disposable creatures, but as long-lived sort of statement fish that need a bigger tank. And I know that is the future for hermit crabs. There is this huge grassroots effort of advocacy for these hermit crabs. And I think that over the time, in our lifetimes, we will see people in general know that hermit crabs live a lot longer than 1 year.
Yeah, and excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm the same. I had some when I was a kid, 6, 8 months, a year, whatever. It was because we weren't told how to keep them, or no one knew what to tell us about how to keep them. And that's something that, me and now even my kids who are 11 and 6, they're really strong advocates of proper care because they've learned it from me and so forth. And like my 11-year-old has his own tank that he takes care of on his own. Mm-hmm. And so when it's feeding time, it's always, Daddy, I can do this, right? I can do Snout and Shell, Krabby Bug Blend, and I can do the protein mix, and I can do that,
Yeah.
And I think it's great that you're providing such a variety. And some criticize the variety. I won't sugarcoat it because there's so much that can be done. But in your case, there's only so much science can show before you move on to that next one. So the process may be a little slower on the manufacturing side of things. Tell me about ensuring that the quality that goes into these mixes and blends that you're providing for hermit crabs and the confidence needed to send that out to the public.
Okay, so I mean, for the last 4 years, we have hand mixed, hand bagged all of our mixes, and that really puts us super close to our ingredients. And we also have taken the time to send them out for third-party lab testing to make sure that we are getting a consistent result that has consistent, protein and carbs and all of that good stuff to help hermit crabs grow. So it's sort of an extensive process. I know that we have a lot of different types of food available, but the thing is, hermit crabs are scavengers, and honestly, our knowledge about what hermit crabs need is constantly evolving. And so we're just learning how maybe their different needs for protein and carbs happen within their molt cycle. And so I like providing a variety because the food that will work today might not be the food that they prefer in a couple of months or in a couple of weeks. So I like to have that variety available so people can figure out what works best for their crabs. Some crabs prefer a lot more, dead bugs, and some crabs prefer a lot more greens and vegetation. And so that's part of why we choose to incorporate a lot. The other thing is that we know that hermit crabs are scavengers. They're not just going to be happy with one, like a pellet or kibble day after day.
Right.
They need variety.
Well, and I have a surface molter in my tank next to me here in my son's room. And, as she started to move around, I've put in the calcium, and currently there's some Snout and Shell bee pollen in there for her post-molt because she's already shed and whatnot.
Yeah.
My daughter needs me. 1 second, please.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Use mine.
I can't because Louie's in there.
The dog's in his crate. You can.
Also,
Yeah. They both needed me at once. I'm so sorry.
sorry,
That's okay.
Shut the door, please.
I thought
Again, 11 and 5, they're like, what's daddy doing? And then they have an excuse as to why they needed to know. So the viewers are pretty used to that. So, but so like the bee pollen, for instance, when I first started using that, I noticed a real difference in my molters. Not necessarily because I could see them. This is my first ever surface molt, but because I noticed a timeline and kind of an ease of operation for them. That this new thing I'd been using obviously helped create because it was the only change. And those things, do they factor into the next thing that you're going to look into? Do they factor into, oh my God, now the cat. Do they factor into how you're going to approach that next product?
Definitely. I definitely view like the molting crab, that's the most vulnerable the crab is in there. And it's something they have to do a lot. And, your cat is adorable.
He's a knucklehead, but thanks.
That's so funny. We know from other crustaceans like lobsters that eventually they can get to a size where they can't successfully molt anymore. It's just the mechanics don't work. It's too big to get through, which is kind of sad.
Right.
And so I definitely am trying to prepare all of the foods so that way it'll give your hermit crab the best chance of molting. And part of that just means offering a variety, because I feel like crabs are better at intuitive eating than maybe people are. And so the crabs can sort of stock up on what they think will give them the best chance to successfully molt.
So how are your crabs? How are they doing on the preferred diet of the household?
My hermit crabs, you know what? I try all different types of food and they still have their favorites. They definitely prefer fruity breakfast, and then they go into more of the protein mix when it's getting closer to molting for them. Since we moved a couple of years ago from Texas to Nevada, I've constantly been battling getting enough humidity. Where I live right now, it's in a high desert, and so I'm always struggling to get enough humidity into the tank. So that's been my big challenge since moving here.
And your, that's your test group as well, is it not?
Yeah, yep. I do experiment on animals, but there's no cruelty involved.
Yeah. Well, I think when you're using natural ingredients and you're just seeing if they like it or not and seeing what the benefit may be, I don't think that the experimentation is as egregious as it could be elsewhere. So, sorry, he's bugging me. So now, tell us about, we've talked about profession, we've talked about, the food line. Who are you? Like, why does Meg want to do all this? Why is she everything we've talked about so far?
So, I am really trying to grow this business to take on some of the hermit crab pellets and that are manufactured by fish food companies. I'm really trying to aggressively compete with the flukers. I want to get into PetSmart and Petco, where that's for a lot of people, that is where they buy the hermit crabs. And I want them to have a much healthier option on the shelves that they can go to. So that is one of my driving ambitions here. We just got onto Chewy this year, and that was like a big accomplishment for my little business because, again, we are trying to compete with some of these multi-decade hermit crab pellet companies.
Yep.
And as we know, pellets are not where we start or end with hermit crab nutrition. A lot of times they include ingredients that are frankly negative towards the crab. A lot of things with copper and extra salts. And so that is what our goal is we want to take on the big pellet guys.
Now, do you have any fear that if you are on those same shelves in those box stores, that your brand will be looked at similarly in the fact that it may not be adequate enough? Because I've heard that about everything beside it.
I mean, I sometimes I worry that like there are so many awesome boutique hermit crab food producers out there, and I do worry that by going for a larger size, we might be viewed suspiciously for that. However, in every passionate group of people, there are some gatekeepers who want to keep it one way. But in general, most people, they're just looking for the better advocacy for hermit crabs. And the thing is a lot of people who are buying hermit crabs, they don't know when they purchase that crab that could be an animal that's with them for as long as it's like a turtle or a tortoise is. They have no clue. And so I think that ultimately, while I risk irritating other hermit crab food producers, all I can say is join me. Let's take on the pellets. Like, join me.
Right.
Let's do this.
Right.
For the better part of the crabs.
No, and that's something that, I mean, obviously it's not going to happen tomorrow. You build up to something like that. So your word of your products and your reputation will build over time as that's starting to kind of come to fruition. My concern in the question is, when you go on these forums or you talk to the advocates like myself or others, and we're saying, well, don't get anything from the pet store, it's no good. Get this off of Chewy or Amazon or off their website or off of Etsy and we're already selling people away from your goal. And that's kind of almost counterproductive now that I'm really kind of hearing you say that, not necessarily on your part, but on ours.
I mean, sure, if we take a negative view, that could be how we look at it, where it's just like all these people are being sent away from the big box stores. However, the people who are proactively reaching out to learn how to take even better care of the hermit crabs, yay, that's great. That's great that they're part of that community. But trying to reach beyond that into the community of people who never even thought to look at how to take better care of their animals. I would love to get to the point where I'm in bigger like beach shop stores where from the point that they are buying a hermit crab, they can see that there's alternatives for fruit for sale. And even if they just go for the $3 pellets, at the moment, at least if they can see, there's more expensive, more premium products that are more whole food options, I think that would still be a success. I think we're all on the team better care for hermit crabs.
100%. And
so we're all taking different ways to get to that point of better care for hermit crabs.
And that was kind of, as I told you prior to us beginning the interview, I kind of let the conversation dictate the questions, and so I had a two-parter in my head there.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked that is number one, to find out kind of what your thought process was there, and number two, to see how you feel about the advocacy and the foods and the people involved in all these different sides of hermit crab care. Why aren't we working together better? There's the pages on Facebook, for instance, as a small, for instance. You'll have 3 different pages that are doing the same exact thing, but they all won't allow you to say their name elsewhere or share something elsewhere. Don't give me information you learned from somebody elsewhere. And it's almost counterproductive, and I understand the idea that we want to prevent the bad information from spreading. Mm-hmm. But I also, in doing so, I feel like we're preventing the good information from spreading, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you in this format, because I can then post it on social media, YouTube and things, and people can see you, not just the bag of food in my hand. And so to me, that's a very important thing, to start tying them together.
Yeah, I think not just in hermit crabs, but a lot of times in our world in general, we're dealing with that sort of gatekeeping, that, anger and high emotions. But if we stop to consider, algorithmically, we have a lot of social media that is deliberately trying to present to us the most high charged things.
Right.
The stuff that'll just infuriate us. And I think on one hand, we want to take ultimate responsibility of being like how we treat others and what we're doing. But I think we're also, when we're living on the internet with these passion projects, we're all a little bit being manipulated by people who are just trying to get our content as much, or they're just trying to get our attention as much.
Right.
And so I think that if, it's so important to reach out and talk to people one-on-one and see that it's not just us against the other. I like the idea of, I think most people are like, the gate's open, come on in. We want to talk about it. We want to talk about how we can advance it. And I think part of hermit crab advocacy, you have people with their different skill set, people who are great at nurturing community and working on social media and spreading information. And then you have other people who might be great at developing food or nurturing a business. And I mean, that nurturing takes a lot of like non-sexy crab stuff, like reinvesting money and like managing cash flow. My goal is to someday be in Petco and PetSmart, but the fact is that they have, 1,000 stores. The amount of money my business needs to build up to be able to support that expansion is tremendous.
Yeah.
And so I think to better answer your question, I think that in general, a lot of these passionate people were sort of being manipulated beyond our control by this striving for attention. Mm-hmm. And if we can step back and fight against that, to be like, you know what, no, the gate's open. I'm going to, again, talk kindly to this newbie on how they need to adjust their tank, because I want them coming back. I'm going to tell that person for the 100th time, here's how you get it to the place you want it to be. It's just so easy to do something mean because it'll get attention.
I'm so happy you just said that for the 100th time. So on our Facebook page, Purple Tiki Hermit Crabs, we started advocating or adding a couple of advocates. So people that have come to the page for those reasons and want to help, we've started to add that. And one of the things that I say to them, and the more we talk, the more I realize how similar you and I are, is that whether it's the first or the 100th time, we need to answer the question. We need to make people feel like they are a part of something different and special and a part of a community, rather than push them away to a care sheet or something similar to that. And on the social media side of things, I mean, it's very cutthroat, first and foremost. The other part is it does have potential to bring together people from different avenues and different sides of this coin. And that's how you and I met. You found me because it was suggested.
Yeah, it was just suggested on my TikTok page.
Yep, and now we're doing a giveaway together on my page. Over on Facebook, I announced it on a couple different social media platforms. Once again, and in front of the world, thank you so much for being supportive of what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
But that just shows, to your point, that we are on the same page. We can work together and move towards a common goal. Talk about that, because I know I've seen a couple other giveaways with your products, and I'm sure that many of them must have started the same way. And why is that important to you?
Like, why is doing the giveaways important?
Why forming those relationships? I mean, obviously, it helps put your product out there, your name out there, and so forth, and that's the business side of things. And everybody understands that. But on the other side, why are those relationships and forming them so important to you?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So I recently did on my TikTok a couple part series on my 10-year anniversary of being self-employed. And being a self-employed person or working on this, like as you were growing this Facebook page, it can be really lonely and isolating.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned, not early enough, but a couple years in, how valuable it was to reach out and talk to other people who were on their own journey. Not only to just build that connection and build those relationships, but also you just sort of, when you get in your own head, you become your own tyrant, and,
right.
And the criticism that you put on yourself, or sometimes, you're working without having, maybe you're not as engaged as you could be, you're slacking at reaching that. And so realizing that as a self-employed person, that I need to surround myself with more entrepreneurs, more people working on projects, it was a natural fit to be like, I need to also reach out to the content creators and the community nurturers, because we face similar problems of like, sometimes you get burnt out. Like showing up day after day, working on this project can be so incredibly draining. And if you have other people you can reach out to and talk about it with, it makes all the difference in the world. Just several years ago, I've been working from home. Eventually, right now I'm in my warehouse, but like I've been working from home for many years. And several years ago, my husband came to work from home during COVID. And he told me, he's just like, I had no clue how many people you talk to throughout the day. But that's the truth. It's like I set up, over the years, I've set up masterminds where we get together with 3 or 4 people and we talk about our problems and we brainstorm and we meet monthly or every other week. And that has been so helpful. And as I've taken on new projects, like right now, I've been working to post more on my TikTok. And it's been helpful to like set up a new mastermind for that, of people I can reach out to exchange ideas and complain about, but also talk about success with, because frankly, my friends don't understand some of my successes on TikTok that are big deals for me.
Right.
But other people who are walking alongside me, they get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's huge. I mean, if I went out into the street and yelled "Snout and Shell" in front of my apartment, we might be lucky if someone knows what we're talking about, right? Because that's where in the infancy still, where you're building and building.
Yes.
But when I turned to my wife the other night and said, Meg from Snout and Shell said she'd do an interview, she knew the importance of that to me. Do you know what I mean? And so, and to the community, because now again, it's another avenue for your message to come through. It's another way for people to see that you're open to those relationships and people to see the person behind the product. And I think that's huge. Whether it's 10 views or 10,000 views, if it's 10, then it's 10 more than we had yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've always looked at it in that respect. So, it was a big deal to me to land you, so to speak.
Thank you. It's a big deal to me.
Yeah, to be landed. But honestly, because I've sent you a message a couple times through Facebook, not realizing where your preferred avenue was.
Oh, okay.
And so now knowing that, I'm like, well, no wonder she didn't get it, because this is where her focus is and so forth.
Yeah.
So when you reached out to me, I was like, ooh, I'm special. And, it was just really exciting to begin to form this relationship, and in the way it was done. So you are very valued and very appreciated.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate all the work that you've been doing. Have you had the opportunity to set up weekly calls with some other people who are building, their own Facebook groups or YouTube channels?
So we have a discussion call every other Thursday through the group on Facebook, awesome. And we talk about anything. I mean, the other night we were talking about somebody's Bigfoot obsession, but typically it starts anyway or ends or somewhere in between on hermit crab, questions and answers, building pages. I have one of our new advocates is in Canada, and she's now setting up her own page for the Canadian side of things because they don't have the resources.
Oh,
You know, and to know I had a little bit of something to do with inspiration there through what we're doing with our page is great. You know, and we're trying to do things a little different than what I described earlier as the Facebook pages, you know, the attitudes and the egos and so forth. My two kids, my 11-year-old does a tank review thing because he's just learned so much. He's off on his own doing his thing. And people post their tanks and he does reviews of them and tries to be helpful along the way. My 5-year, well, she'll be 6 soon, but she pestered me enough to do a show. So we do a little show together where I ask her questions and in her own little way, she answers them, and then we post it. And it's. I've had people say, "Oh, you know, you're using your kids to get attention." It's really 100% genuine that they want to do it. Which has been just so cool because having that to share as a family, and you know, within the hermit crab stuff and setting up tanks and choosing the foods. Now, she gets really mad at me when I feed the crabs without her because she wants to help choose the foods. So it's an amazing thing where, you know, like I said, whether it's a situation like you and I or if it's the families, it brings so many people together if we allow for it to do so.
Yeah, it really can do that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, that's really kind of all I've got. Is there anything new and exciting that you might want to announce or talk about while we're here?
So, yeah. So part of what we're working on right now is over the last year, we've been growing our Hermit Crab Club subscription box, which has 2 foods and a mystery treat, and you can also choose to have it every month, every 2 months, or every 3 months, depending on how many crabs and how hungry they are.
Yep.
And part of why I've been growing that is it allows me to provide a better value for customers because I'm able to price it lower than buying the bags individually. And the other thing is it grows the sales that I get on my Shopify store. Most of my products are sold through Amazon. However, Amazon takes a huge fee. They make over $5 on every unit that we sell, even more than that. They make a lot of money. And so when I'm able to sell through my Shopify store, I am able to have a higher margin, so I'm able to give a better deal to my customers and sort of use that to reinvest it into the business and grow our reach. So that way, hopefully someday soon, we'll be able to get into Petco and PetSmart. And part of that is I get to create new recipes just for the Hermit Crab Club. So that is what we're doing this month is we are developing 5 new recipes. Excellent. My favorite is Star Spangled Bug that will be coming out in July. And that's sort of our big project because, you know, we have to send them away for third-party testing. We have to get all new packaging for it. It takes many months in order to launch a new product. And so it's kind of also my favorite thing. I love the product development side. So that is what we're working on right now.
Well, as someone who is a member bi-monthly, and I'm due this month, that puts me right into July to be benefiting from this work you're doing now. So that sounds great.
Great. Yeah, I'm really excited about the Star Spangled Bug. It's a very pretty hermit crab food.
and just a point aside, my daughter loves the little crabs. The magnet one was one of her favorite. It's on my refrigerator holding all her work. So, excellent job there from my 5-year-old. But Meg, thank you so much for agreeing to do this and, you know, taking the time to kind of sit down with someone that we had no prior conversation about what to expect and so forth, and just kind of go for broke and have a conversation like this. It really speaks a lot to, I think, your confidence in what you're doing and who you are as a brand and as a person. So we appreciate you very, very much. And we're doing the giveaway starting, we've advertised it already. It's going to start Friday,
awesome.
Where some announcements will be made on my son's little show. and then
Oh, cool.
we're going to let that run through Monday afternoon, and then we'll shut it down so that my daughter can help announce a winner on her Monday show. So getting everybody
Oh, awesome.
involved. Yeah, getting everybody
That's
involved.
great. Yeah, I hope you get more reach for purple tiki hermit crab.
Thank you so very much. And we'll talk soon, I hope.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
All right, guys, for Meg Renninger, I am Chris from Purple Tiki Hermits, and we'll see you next time.